All right, let's get started. Could you please call?
Nathan Burlingame.
Here.
Mari Davis.
Here.
Nan Dreyer. Here. Robert Dutka.
Here.
Andrew Fackler.
Here.
Alex Foster. Ray Henley.
Here.
Jerry Laporte.
Here.
Joan Lauren.
Here.
Katie Myers.
Here.
Mark Turple. Andrew Winchell. And Dick Woodruff.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Okay, welcome to the July 16th, 2025 Historical Affairs and Board. July 1st, 2024, updated state legislation by certain county board decisions, including the HALRB, having first forum to conduct its monthly business. HALRB hearings are provided in a hybrid environment, in person and streamed online. Members of the public may attend and participate either virtually or in person. For members of the board joining us virtually this evening, please join us via the Microsoft Teams link. Please keep your device muted until you'd like to speak, but ensure your video is turned on and you are visible during the event. For members of the public joining us this evening, today's meeting is available to stream from the county website via Microsoft Teams link. There is also a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. Please keep your device muted and video turned off until you are called upon to speak. For public speakers who have pre-registered, please wait until you are called on. For those who have not pre-registered, requests for public speaking will still be submitted. Staff will do their best to accommodate those requests. However, we cannot guarantee that they will be met. Speaker slips are available at the front of the room for in-person speakers who have not pre-registered. Public comment is only allowed for items advertised on the HALRB's agenda. The ability to sign up to speak will no longer be available after the HALRB chair has stated that public testimony has concluded. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, written comments, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. You may use the chat for technical assistance. All voting will be done by a call of the roll. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website and the county's commission page. Avoid sharing any personal information that you would not like to be made public. All information associated with today's meeting, whether it's spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. All right. I want to welcome JD Spain here. He's our county board member liaison. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And we are going to get to kind of your portion of the meeting, but I just wanted everyone to know he's here. And how would you like us to address you?
JD.
JD. Okay.
Let's keep it simple.
All right. We will do that. Okay. And we're going to do our agenda and then we'll get to our portion. Okay. All right, so let's move on to approval of the June 2025 minutes. Does anyone have any questions on that? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the June meeting minutes. Second.
Right.
All right, please respond yes if you approve them this month's minutes. Thank you. Last month's minutes. Nathan Burlingame.
Yes.
Mari Davis.
Yes.
Nan Dreyer.
Yes.
Robert Dutka.
Abstain.
Andrew Fackler.
Yes.
Alex Foster. Yes. Ray Henley.
Yes.
Jerry Laporte.
Yes.
Joan Lauren.
Yes.
Katie Myers.
Yes.
And Dick Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion.
Move on to discussion of agenda.
Yes, we do.
All right, so I will provide staff presentation for this certificate of appropriateness project. The property at 2831 23rd Road North is a circa 1925 bungalow that has undergone extensive alterations over time. It is not listed in the National Register District for Maywood. However, the house is located within the boundaries of the Maywood Local Historic District, which is why it is subject to the Maywood Design Guidelines and review by the HALRB. This property is considered non-contributing to the district. In January 2022, the HALRB approved COA 21-32, which allowed for the replacement of all existing vinyl windows with aluminum-clad wood windows. The project also included the replacement of all vinyl siding with fiber cement siding, the reduction in size of 2 windows on the facade, the conversion of an existing window opening into a doorway, and the infill of the front doorway and replacement of the opening with a window. A new front doorway was installed on the facade setback. So the applicant is currently proposing to relocate an existing window on the rear elevation. The window would be relocated 2 feet to the left when you're facing the rear elevation to accommodate the expansion of a bathroom on the interior. The applicant would not replace the window, but would use the existing. The DRC did not review this project at their July meeting since the meeting did not occur. So that's why this item is on the discussion agenda for tonight's meeting. And HPP staff recommends approval of the subject application as submitted. This non-contributing house has been heavily altered and no longer resembles the original bungalow form as originally constructed, nor resembles the characteristics common during Maywood's period of significance. The relocation of an existing window over 2 feet from its original location would not be visible from the public right-of-way, nor would the change be largely visually discerning. The HALRB has permitted fenestration pattern changes on the house previously and on other houses in the district. And finally, staff believe that this modification would comply with standard number 9 of the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. So I am going to scroll through the application. So this is the site plan for the house. And let's zoom in here. Here's where the window would be changing. So here's its original location, and here's where it would be relocated to accommodate the expansion of the bathroom at the back. And this is a photograph of the back of the house. So it's this window here that would be relocated. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay. And is the applicant in virtually?
Yes, they are.
Hello.
Hi, would you like to share anything that might have been missed in the staff's presentation or any thoughts you have with the HALRB?
That was an excellent presentation, so thank you so much for preparing it. Yeah, so our 14-year-old daughter currently has an airplane bathroom, and so we're just trying to give her a little bit more space as she goes into high school and redo her bathroom to something that is more usable. And like as staff said, we're maintaining the existing window. We're just sliding it over so we can build the new wall slightly further out into her room. So thank you all for your consideration and the service that you're providing here.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you just go back to the photo of the rear?
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so can you describe, because there's no elevations, like which window?
It's the blue, the back of the house. It's the top right one. And so it'll be moving 2 feet to the left.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the bathroom is just to the right between that and the door and the wall.
There's no other comments? All right, I move that the HALRB approve COA 25-05 for the request to relocate a window on the rear elevation at 2831 23rd Road North in the Maywood Local Historic District.
I'll second that motion.
All right, please respond yes if you approve the motion. Nathan Burlingame,
Yes.
Laurie Davis,
Yes.
Dan Dreher,
Yes.
Robert Dudka,
Yes.
Andrew Fackler,
Yes.
Alex Foster,
Yes.
Ray Henley,
Yes.
Jerry Laporte,
Yes.
Joan Lawrence,
Yes.
Katie Myers,
Yes.
and Dick Woodruff.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for your time. Hope you have a
Thank
wonderful,
I will follow up with your approval paperwork.
very much appreciated. Great work on the presentation. Thank you all.
Okay. Next is the administrative COAs. They're just listed for informational purposes. We won't discuss them. So we will move on to the adoption. Policy 6.
Happy to do so. So as you all might remember, from last year, we had the adoption of the electronic meeting policy coincide with the update to the bylaws, but they're technically two separate documents. So tonight, we're just talking about the electronic meeting policy. All county commissions are required to have an electronic meeting policy, and that is a requirement from the state. And it's a requirement that you all adopt one every single year. So thankfully, there were no updates or changes set at the state level for the meeting policy, for the electronic meeting policy. So there are no changes to the actual document itself in terms of its text from what you all originally approved. But you do have to re-adopt it annually. And it is now recommended that we re-adopt it following the end of the legislative session for the General Assembly, which ends in June, I believe. And so we have bumped it up to July, even though it was not going to. Basically, it was your policy was going to be in effect until the end. We decided to bump it up to comply with that recommendation. So I have the policy here, and I sent it to you all last week. So hopefully you had a chance to look over it, but I'm happy to answer any questions or anything like that. Basically, the only change that would occur would be to the bottom, which just has the date for when it would be adopted and then when it would remain valid until. Any questions about the policy?
Any comments?
Yes, since we haven't needed to change it in the past year, that it seems to be working. So
Yeah, and it complies with what the requirements are with the state of Virginia right now for commission meetings to have a virtual option as well.
Can I just ask very quickly, the last, the number 4 there says, if for any reason is disapproved. What would be reasons for disapproval of someone attending virtually who asked to do so? Just an example or two.
I don't know if I can't come up with an example off the top of my head. I will say that has never occurred for our commission to say that you are not allowed to attend.
Okay.
It might just be more of a question of your voting capacity. If you are allowed to have a vote, we would always say you can attend virtually, but it might impact whether or not your vote would be able to count at that meeting, if that makes sense.
Well, that's not what that paragraph says, but that's okay. Your answer, it's fine. It seems to me like I can't imagine conditions under which we or you all would not be able to approve participation of someone legitimately out of town or with a medical reason. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and Greg, I'm happy to follow up with our county board office and see if there's some further guidance from the clerk on what a situation like that might be.
No other discussion. I move that the HLRB adopt the electronic meeting policy as presented, effective from today, July 16th, 2025, until July 31st, 2026.
All right, please respond yes if you approve the motion. Nathan Burlingame,
Yes.
Mari Davis,
Yes.
Ann Dreyer,
yes.
Robert Dutka,
Yes.
Andrew Fackler,
Yes.
Alex Foster. Yes. Roy Henley,
Yes.
Jerry Laporte,
Yes.
Joan Lawrence,
Yes.
Myers.
Yeah.
And Dick Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I will update the language. I will send it around and we'll post it on the website.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so, we're gonna do our discussion with JD. So this is JD, our liaison, to the county board. He so kindly, offered to come to our meeting. So, if you want to tell us about yourself more, and, I'll let you take it from here and have some.
Of course you do. Well, good evening, everyone. I am just coming over from George Mason University. We're celebrating the annual affair for Clarendon Alliance, which have their annual meeting. That's on the backside of a full day here in the office. But yeah, I'm one of your county board members, one of the 5, and I've been on board here right at 6 months. But I'm not new to Arlington, right? I've been here 16 years. Came here from a family and I came here after a diplomatic assignment over in Brussels, Belgium. I spent about 7 years in Europe. And, she's with the State Department. I was in the Marine Corps. Did about 26 years, retired in 2016, became a federal investigator. Did that for a couple of years, went into contract work, did some intel work, worked out in the Tysons, was involved in the local community, sat on a commission. I was a commissioner just like you many years ago, Civil Service Commission. And our kids are grown, they're out of the house, and we have a 4-year-old granddaughter that we love dearly. We get to see her like twice a week. That's the light of my week. When we come into, one thing about being a board member is not only do I have just this commission, right? It's like 7 other commissions that I'm a liaison to include regional advisory boards and all that other. But there's something special about HLRB, historical figures, and we all get to talk as board members at the December timeframe, like where we want to be, what commission we want to be a part of. And if any of you don't know, I mean, I worked with this commission many years ago, back in 2014, on an historical marker down in Green Valley. And so I sat at this table as an advocate for a number of things, and we were successful. But I admire the process and I understand how important it is to have this perspective, whether it's site plans and everything else that we do, because our history is our history, right? And we want to do our best to preserve that. And I know there's a slew of questions up here for me to answer, or at least try to talk about tonight that were submitted. And in full transparency, of course, I went to staff and said, hey, give me, some of this stuff happened before I showed up on the scene. So am I coming in here and they're going to get at me? No, I want to have a conversation, right? Because, one thing about, you can line up all the questions. Everyone has their perspective. And, we have policies and we have laws that kind of govern us. And in Arlington, what I found is a very, really, unique community in itself when you're talking about 26 square miles and over 250,000 people. And each neighborhood takes on its own, kind of like ideology and it's driving their initiatives, right? On what they believe is best. And I think as a county board member, you have to do your due diligence to kind of listen to everyone and see, what is it that we're doing that probably needs to be fixed? Are we doing something wrong? Or, but then also thank you as commissioners, because you could be anywhere else tonight, but you decided to be here at the government center. And I want to thank you. Before I get into my questions, I am going to have a question of each one of you, because that will help me as we have these conversations. And it's only going to be, one reply from a commissioner, right? And the question is, why did you join the HLRB? Good. Paulina.
Like history. I'm interested in preserving local history. I'm to contribute to the community.
I'm a longtime history teacher.
I was active in getting Maywood, helping to get Maywood identified as a local historic district. I've lived there for quite a number of years, and we just got really tired of seeing all the infill development and historic buildings being torn down.
I'm an architectural historian.
An architect that did a lot of historic preservation as part of his practice.
2 members on
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get the line, the folks online have to be, it's all staff right now.
this. Stop.
Okay, well, chair,
I love old houses.
love old house. I'm from the south. We still have some down there. Who are the two online?
Dick, can you tell us? You're muted. You're muted, sir. All right, Greg, would you like to go?
Dick's unmuted.
Yeah, sorry. I represent Maywood. I live in the neighborhood, and I just thought it was important to have representation on the board, given that it's the only neighborhood in Arlington that's an historic district, among other reasons.
All
I'm
right.
very interested in in doing what I can and assuring that that someone's paying attention to the history of the county before it was settled by colonists, and the history of our African American neighbors.
Thank you. So that is, it seems like we have a couple of architects here and some historians, and that's great. I am not a lawyer. I tell folks it's a joke. I'm just a country boy from South Carolina, living in the city, trying to make it from day to day. That's a joke, y'all. You can laugh. But quite honestly, I'm a single family homeowner in a historically black district, historical neighborhood in Arlington, Butler Home Subdivision, now called Penrose. And we were very intentional about where we decided to live, to purchase our home. Because my wife is Mexicana, my kids are mixed, right? My granddaughter is East Asian. And history, I have a very fond appreciation. So to the gentleman that talked about, other communities long before we showed up, you have to be able to appreciate and understand what imagine Arlington, what it looked like in 1800s, in the early 1900s, and even up to 1960. It does not look today like it once was. And the question becomes, even in 16 years that I've been here, Arlington has changed significantly. Boston does not look like the Boston that I saw when I got here, in 2009. So our communities are ever changing and evolve. And we have to, I think, also adapt from a historical perspective, but also be innovative and capture, right, our history and make sure we don't lose it, right? And there's different ways, there's a myriad of ways we can do it, right? We can have conversations ad nauseum, and I think we're going to get into some of that about preservation and housing and zoning and all that, how that plays into historical preservation. But I think, we're not a county anymore of 60,000 people, and folks are continuing to flock here. So how do we do this in a very, when we talk about HALRB and historical preservation, how do we do this in a very conscientious way whereby we respect our past, we kind of hold on to that, but at the same time we grow and continue to be innovative in a place whereby businesses want to come, families want to come, because if we stay still and idle, we're not going to get anywhere. The first question that has come up to me, and then I'll open up for.
Before you start questions, we do.
Oh, how'd y'all get me going? Y'all know
We're just going.
All right, let's see if there's any public comment. I'm sorry. Someone's coming. Commissioner? Uh-oh.
I'm sorry.
HRB, historical?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm with the energy committee.
Oh.
Oh. My fault.
That was exciting. Okay, so no public comment, but the public testimony is now concluded. So
Oh,
short
okay.
and sweet.
All right,
But it's
yeah.
a new task.
Okay. So let's see if I can tackle this first question. What aspects of Arlington history does Mr. Spain, I consider particularly important to protect or preserve for future generations? A Okay, the gentleman just who was on the call, referenced, historically marginalized communities. Uh, whether you think about our Asian community, our African American community, um, and a lot of rich history. I think we have really, remnants of a lot of the things that they uh, found to be historical in nature in some aspects of their neighborhood. I want to do the best we can to make sure we are not only, staying true to that. I know we put up some signage and did a few things like that to remember folks like Syfaxes and others like that. But I believe, all of our communities, once again, take on a very unique aspect in and of themselves. So, I also want to listen to those that have been here longer than I have, right? Because I consider myself somewhat of a transplant. There's people that have been their entire lives in Arlington. So I kind of listen, really listen to like what's important to you to preserve the history that you have here. But people, right, and spaces, and that is important to me. If I could answer that question probably more in a very general way. Arlington in of itself, right? Arlington, the word proper Arlington. How many of you know what that means? Where it's derived from? Is anyone in this room? What was Arlington
It's Alexandria.
before that?
It was a plantation.
There you go. Arlington in and of itself was a slave plantation. How many of you knew that? Besides Greg, too. So once again, I mean, like, I'm not saying we erased Arlington, right? But there's aspects, there's generational aspects in Arlington to a lot of folks they just don't know. And I think where HALRB and where others can get to know a lot about this is getting out in the community and talking to some of these folks and some of these groups. Because if you're not out there, right, speaking with the key stakeholders in our community, you're not at a level to really, I believe, make really good decisions on what's best for some of these communities. And I know we have, you have heard from a lot of communities, but I'm talking about historical perspective when it comes to marginalized communities who have, for a number of reasons, have been moved out of Arlington. And, something I said, and I've said it before I came in office, I do not want to see Arlington turn into a Beverly Hills 90210. So if anyone's watched Beverly Hills 90210, that is just, where people are priced out, where housing is not available, where access to these neighborhoods are unachievable. So, but how do we do that and still keep our history? That's what's important to me. All right, so the second question you have up here, and keep in mind I have glasses on, and I'm trying to, how do you think the new Virginia law, HB 1395, section, here we go, on historical preservation will affect development in Arlington County? Well, it's already affected us in some way. It will cause some of our programs to be, prolonged, but it also ensure that we pause and make sure we do our best to get it right. So it's like there's like a check and balance on some of this, right? And I think that's what's good about the law. And we need to make sure also that we're in compliance with that law. That's probably going to dovetail into the next area here in just a second. But I think it has already affected us, and we saw it somewhat in Millwood to a certain extent. But the county, we all need to know that we respect, these designations, and we're going to do everything we can to stay within the law, right? Are there any questions particularly about number 2? And I know we have a 2A on how you will facilitate efficient and effective HALRB engagement and the implementation of this legislation. I think, working with our SPRCs, working in unison with our staff and other stakeholders is critically important to make sure what we're doing when it comes to HLRB and historical preservation is efficient, right? That is how I view that. You have sent a number of some, correspondence comes from HLRB to the county board. We read it, we look at it, and you got to know that we give a lot of consideration to what you write and send us, right? So I believe that what you're doing, that level of engagement, working on SPRCs and other things within these processes that we have laid out are critically important. I want to pause there for a second and just open up to see if there's some additional perhaps questions, because these seem like they were kind of set. I told the team I kind of like to have a back and forth conversation. It feels like I'm in a test mode here. We got questions up here. JD, you show up and, okay, this is question 3. Answer this, is this a gotcha question? I want to hear from you. Why? Why do I want to hear from you? Because you're where the rubber meets the road. You're up here doing the work. And what I don't want the perception to be, and none of my colleagues believe, is that you're here working your behind off, doing what you can to make recommendations, and it be this appearance of that is falling on deaf ear when it comes to the county board, right? I don't want it to be that way. It needs to be a two-way, level of communication going on. Someone told me that I'm the first board member that come to the HLRB in quite some time. And I want to be able to establish, not just now, but in the future, a really good relationship. So right, how we're thinking as a board, at least where I'm at, right? There should be no time whereby there's this perceived conflict, I believe, between perhaps, there may be conflict, but HLRB, the county board, the staff, everyone should be knowing what's going on, even if there's differences of opinion, right? And that's good for us to have differences of opinion. And go back to 2, more poignantly with this question, you got to know that we're going to follow the law on this one. And I think, again, there's good checks and balances in place right now. And the engagement piece, just keep doing what you're doing. Does the count? You got a question here? You about to say something?
Well, I think we will, so a few of our members submitted these questions.
Yeah.
So if whoever submitted 1 and 2, if you do have like a follow-up comment or question, I don't want to put you on the spot if it was answered, but if anyone else on.
Oh, they got it on, they're recording. Don't worry about it. They got it on right now.
Because yes, these questions were submitted by.
Yeah.
I think they were submitted so long ago. I'm not sure if I submitted them. It may have been Dick. But I think we'll just be very concrete here. And you mentioned, Mr. Spain, the Melwood issue. Well, we want to help the board comply with the law, and we want to produce for the board a recommendation, for the county board, a recommendation about historic designation. The limitation we faced in doing that in a timely basis is that we have inadequate staff support. Our staff is extraordinarily talented, hardworking, and really outstanding in every way. However, we have a queue system where the first in is the first dealt with on any request for a historic review. And sometimes that's a real problem because the builders have a very short time frame based on their financial requirements and other parts of the package that they've put together. We understand that, we're sympathetic, but we also feel like we need to do our job, which is to consider the historic designations when asked. Staff was unable to hire under contract any kind of part-time person. Well, this is our assumption, or be able to, of course, this goes into the queue, and the queue meant that we had to wait for almost a year before they could even start this study because of a lack of resources. And I hope that someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of it. I'm just wondering if the board is so, because the board wants to be so compliant with the new law, and we want to provide the material you need to be compliant on a timely basis that serves all the interests of our citizens. Is there any way that you think the board and ours and HALRB could work together to be able to address more quickly and efficiently requests that come to us for historic consideration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So to the staffing piece, we've had some challenges, my understanding, with staff in the past. I think we've done our best to kind of mitigate any issues that may come up in the future. I would just say that, kind of this is a broad stroke. It may not even answer your question pointedly. The phrase about effective communication is the key to success. I use that a lot. Like, I find a lot of times when we have these problems is that we aren't really communicating with each other, right? And I understand how developers and builders may come in and they're a rush, but a process is a process, and we need to adhere to the process to the extent we can, right? There's challenges. There's challenges in many of the things that have come here before I showed up. And, I would just say that moving forward in the future, when these challenges present themselves, say something to staff, say, we have a new, kind of like almost like a new board here, talk to us, bring us in again. I heard I'm the first person from the county board that has been to one of these meetings in many years. See, that in of itself, right, tells me that there has not been a really good line of communication between HLRB, right, through staff to the county board. And that's going to present problems in of itself, because we can't be finding out at the 11th hour the underlying issues that may be coming up with any issue that you may be working on. That in itself is going to be challenging, make problems. So you have my commitment to try to work together in good spirit and unity, again, to mitigate any of these problems that may have been in the past. But that's all I can promise you at this moment, right? Staff is working hard. I know our county board team, at least this group, is fully behind doing our very best. And again, that's speaking quite broad. No one is being, derelict in the performance of their duties. We want the best for Arlington. We want the best for HLRB. So, but there's more work to be done, Grant. I get it. And again, I may not have answered your question, pointedly, but again, just trust that you have my commitment and just being here. I wanted to come here and look, this is not on the chair. I wanted to come here a long time ago and start having these conversations, but we're here today and you're going to have me for a long time. And I think if there's tangible ways for us to improve, present that to me. And let's try to figure it out, whatever that may be. Because what's happened in the past, there may have been some problems. It could have been systems. It could have been lack of people or personnel. But the only way we're going to get better is to kind of, talk to me and tell me what the problems are, and let's work together. We're not going to figure it out in one night. We're not going to figure it out 2 nights.
I want to be clear that I wasn't criticizing anything from past performance. I was only noting that we had sent a letter to the board that said, and this may have been before your tenure started, saying very clearly that the reason there's a delay here is because of a shortage of resources. And that's my only point.
Resources from on your team at HLRB or staff?
Yeah, what was discussed here at the board at one point was if our staff had a short-term consultant who could help them, would they be able to clear this queue more quickly for the studies? I don't know the answer to that, but we did send a note. I think, Katie, I'm not sure when that went, but we sent a note explaining that we're trying to comply with the new law and provide information, but that we're hindered by this concern. This is not a criticism. It's just that we were communicating and did communicate with the county board.
Well, and yeah, I think we sent, we did send the letter. And then I think this has kind of been mentioned a few times, and I think maybe we have an update soon, but I think, we could have a 4-member team, but we've kind of been working through the hire system. So we're still hoping to have a 4-member staff team. 3 great members, but we would love to have a full 4-person team.
So do we have a vacancy?
So we have a vacancy right now, and our team has been in transition for over a year.
Okay.
And so I think as we are trying to hit our targets with our priorities for the year, part of that is also getting the team to full capacity. And then as we kind of get that team trained and where we want to be, then I think there's the idea that we would like to tell county leadership what we are looking to need, what resources we need. And I think what Ray was saying to you is some concrete examples that were brought up, I think, in the February letter during the Melwood Site Plan project. And so I think you all have been doing a great job with trying to make suggestions. I think the idea that the line of communication from HLRB to county board, staff to county leadership to county board is a very good point, and why, you know, that's a place where we can start to improve. So we can talk about what we think could be solutions.
Yeah, okay. I still believe that, you know, it's very basic, back to communication. Again, I won't get into all the weeds of what I'm seeing and what, even with several commissions, is that, you know, some commissions are thriving and doing quite well in many areas, and there's others that are having some challenges, even working with staff and effectively communicating, whether it's positions or, you know, through staff to the county board. Just, you know, you're new. I think you just mentioned that y'all dynamic is coming together in the last year or so, and there's a vacancy. Was not aware of that. That means we have room to improve, right? And I think we should, you know, just endeavor to improve ourselves on that. And that's where I'll leave it for right now. That's where I think we'll leave it right now. So there's a question here about, hold on, there's a hand raised.
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank you for joining us, JD. I really appreciate it. You're right. We haven't had a member of the board visit us for quite some time. You know, I wanted to just get back to the subject that we were just talking about for a second, because the way the historic review process works is when the HLRB passes a resolution recommending to the county board that a historic district be created, in this case specific to the Melwood site, that necessitates that a study get done. And that study, and pursuant to the new Virginia law that was passed, nothing can happen. The board cannot either reject or approve an historic designation until that study is complete and under its review. And so you could say that the lack of, you know, the inadequate staff resources that we have that are delaying this study is holding up the whole Melwood site project. Now, from my perspective as a member of the board, I'm fine that it's held up. And what's really good is that this new law is making sure that this property can't be demolished until this historic review process is completed. So step one is to get the study done. Step two is for us to either recommend or not recommend an historic district to the board. And step three is the county board decides one way or the other. And until that happens, nothing can happen on Melwood. And our understanding is from staff is they're closely in contact with permits and other entities in the county government to make sure that there isn't any kind of sneaky behind the scenes action that happens, as what happened with the Phoebe Lothrop project, in which the HLRB and pretty much the county board whipsawed itself and had that valuable property demolished before anybody had a chance to complete the process. So I just wanted to give you that additional context. Thank you for coming. Melwood is I'd like to hear your answer to the third question, what is the current status of the Melwood project?
I'm actually leaning into that because if there's one question I came prepared for, and I did ask staff to kind of lean in, let's make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's on this. I'm gonna tell you where we're at, right, as a county. And so, as we all know, Melwood was approved February 22nd, 2025. The building and the demolition permits are on hold until 30 days after the county board makes a final decision for the LHD designation for the Nellie Custis School. We as a county, we have already implemented measures to ensure no permits are issued before the board's decision. And the HPP staff plan to study Nellie Custis' property from late 2025 into early 2026. The HPP staff is going to prepare a report for the HLRB. And you heard this alluded to a little bit early. At the end of the day, if the HLRB recommends against the LHD designation, the process ends and the nomination would not proceed to the county board. But if the HLRB recommends in favor, the county board will make the final designation. Okay, that's where we're at when it comes to the Melwood site plan. As of today, question number 3. All right.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. And this right here's another hot button topic. Was the Green Valley community adequately involved in decision making related to the new residential development recently approved for South Glebe Road? And then sub-question part of that A was, should the HLRB engage when nearby land use changes or development could have an impact on an historic asset like Lomax AME Zion Church? Who submitted that question?
I believe Gray. I believe you submitted the question.
I think I'm the culprit again here.
So Gray.
Sorry, this is such a great opportunity to talk to you, and we really appreciate you coming. We wanted to make the most of it.
Great, yeah, great. So I'm gonna give you some answers because I asked, if you watch that process, and that process kind of cook off as soon as I got on the board, right? And it was a quick turn. But let me put some context on this. Green Valley is an area that I frequent quite a bit for the past 16 years. I get my hair done down there. I was the leader of one of the organizations, the Arlington Lodge down there. That's exactly where we put the historical marker back in 2014. I want to believe I know Green Valley really well. I'm not a lifelong resident of Green Valley, but let's talk to the question at hand. Was the Green Valley community adequately involved in the decision making? Now, this could be argued, but I would argue and say yes, they were. I would not even argue, I would say yes. Why? Because I know for certain that Green Valley, the residents, this conversation was initially talked about in the Civic Association, and the Civic Association actually had a representative to, the SPRC, right? So there were conversations going on well in advance. Now, did the entirety of Green Valley know about this? Perhaps not. But that was approved on April 9th. And even before we got to April 9th, we as the county board have received a lot of feedback from the community, from Lomax. In fact, I've gone to church at Lomax. I know the pastor down there quite a bit. Actually took my mom to Lomax when she came here because we're AMEs. What was going on at Hotel Pentagon, and that site, and that by right development? It was Lomax wanted something. Green Valley Civic Association wanted something. It was quite obvious if you go back and watch the recordings. Folks in the community wanted one thing, and then you had other folks all around Arlington that was leaning in and wanted something, right? It was really tough, and we actually moved the date for our final decision to get more input. And I think what the developer in the community, they found some level of compromise. Wasn't perfect, but you're going to put 500 and some odd units down there. Many of them, mostly, of course, are going to be market rate. There are some committed affordable housing in there, but the challenge that's going on is the transportation piece, was the street. And we've done some analysis on that. We're going to go back to the Green Valley Civic Association in September and talk to them about that. But all in all, I think the county, we worked really hard, working with the community. And again, everyone was not happy, but in Arlington, we all know, and if you know anything about me, I'm a pro-housing person. And I'm just one vote. But Green Valley needs more, in my opinion, than just committed affordable housing units. low-end CAF units. They need economic stimuli. They need business. They need different types of housing. They need all of that invoked into their community. Many folks will argue, well, you're going to go down there, you're going to take away the historical the church. Well, no one was taking away historical preservation of the church. The church, all the church actually wanted was a wall built, right, between the new project and the church. But you know what we heard, what was going on in some to the county board. Some people were claiming, well, we're building a segregation wall between the church and the new site. Did y'all read the documents that were submitted to the board? The church wanted the wall, right? Because there was a graveyard right there, and that's where some of their most precious friends and family are laid to rest. And they wanted to completely. Well, look, I think that I also was told that HALRB was invited to participate in the SBRC process due to the site's proximity to Lomax. But HALRB could not attend two SBRC meetings. HPP staff provided recommendations to protect the LHD. That is information that has come to. Was anybody here? I don't think anybody here was on the SBRC. HALRB.
We had two members that were invited to go, and sometimes there are times when SBRC meetings can't be made due to discussion issues. So we tried to keep the HLRB informed with how those discussions were going. So to have the kind of checks and balances where staff provided the input.
Yeah. So again, this just goes like, I mean, talk about the HLRB. I mean, think about the Planning Commission, where they are expected to be with all these projects coming day in and day out. It's a lot to ask. All I would say is the Green Valley Civic Association, Lomax Church, and citizenry were highly engaged in this process. And one of those meetings went for hours on end. So we heard. And it's not over, right? We're still speaking with that community and stakeholders in that community because, you know, we don't want to, it's not performative to us. There's unique concerns about, you know, the type of housing that is going to Green Valley and affordability, and people can actually get into those houses, right? The answer is, if you really look across the map and check out the socioeconomic dynamics of Green Valley, especially in and around that area, it's not a lot of folks that could probably afford to get into those market rates. Now they'll be able to get into some of those CAF units that are set aside. Many people wanted more CAFs, but it was also got down to, you know, the business model, and there was a timing issue and investment, and it was by right. And so look, you know, do we want more housing, or do we want to kick the can down the road and wait another year to continue to have a conversation? And then there was transportation issues as well, traffic safety issues that I really brought up as, you know, the road intersects with Glee. And we addressed a lot of that. So I think we're in a good space now. We haven't heard anything else from folks in Green Valley or the Civic Association. Well, those challenges are going to come, and it won't be the last time, right? As we continue to have development across Arlington, trust me. Any additional questions on that? All right, and number 5, I gotta love this question. Who said, may I ask who submitted this question?
I think it was Gray again.
Gray, I'm gonna have to take you to Brookies for breakfast.
Was I the only one who submitted questions? I feel like I expected everybody to put questions in, and one of mine would be chosen.
That was probably a bit more great. You just submitted the good ones, the juicy ones to talk about.
I was just trying to be responsive.
Yeah, I think we all in this room could have some level of affinity with the Black Heritage Museum, and probably not just the Black Heritage Museum, probably anything that's dealing with, you know, cultural arts and historic arts in our community. You know, before I came on the board, and this has been a conversation in the political circle, you know, some folks were, you know, some people advocate, I've been talking for years about the Black Heritage Museum. I used to attend the Black Heritage Museum when they were on top of the SunTrust Bank. Did anybody know where that
Yes.
they used to meet there, right? And now they're right there on Columbia Pike, across the street in the little area. Yes, we need to help not just the Black Heritage Museum, but I think also, here I am, there's Native American history that is rich here in Arlington that has been forgotten. There's also other cultures and historical pieces here in Arlington. I think what I would love to see, you know, ultimately, is some level of a cultural center where we can have a lot of these groups like the Black Heritage Museum under one umbrella. So our folks, it'll be an attraction so people can come and visit. It is not right, I think, for the Black Heritage Museum to be popping up and going all over the place. How many of you know about the Arlington Historical Society and their place? Awesome, you know, and you need to go check it out because they're doing some great work. They just got, you know, they have a home, right? The Black Heritage Museum does not have a home. So it's going to require, you know, continued conversations with not only Black Heritage Museum, the executive director over there, Scott Taylor, but also some of our, you know, businesses and folks that are coming in and building. And ultimately, I think we as a county can do a little bit more. But let me be honest with you on this one. You know, we're in tight budget right now. I mean, if you watch this, you know, the FY26 budget, you know, I was the one who said, look, no to increase in property taxes, right? We all ultimately came around and did that because I understand the times that we're in right now. And do we have this nest egg, this cushion of extra money? We have some empty office spaces around. It'd probably be ideally suited for, retrofit for Black Heritage Museum. So there's continued work to do there. And I'm fully supportive of not just the Black Heritage Museum, but also some other areas where I think we can enhance when it comes to arts and community and working with AAD and our other organizations to make that happen. All right, that is 5 questions. That's enough questions.
I recommend the Nellie Custis School.
What's that?
I recommend the Nellie Custis School as a permanent home for the Black Heritage Museum.
I think, you know, I've done a lot of talking and I know you're probably digesting this. This is my first time here. I want to have a partnership with everyone here. And I thank you, you know, Katie and Alexandra for your leadership. Being a chair and a vice chair is definitely not easy. You have family, you do things, you got to make sure all these people are showing up and doing it. You know, I get it. And I just want to thank you. Thank you publicly for what you do and the sacrifice you made for our county to do this. It does not go unnoticed. I know we met a couple months back and had our little chit chat, but the question becomes for HLRB, in my opinion, is what's next? Where do you go next? As a group, as a committee, what is the next big challenge? Are we more of a reactive type commission? Or are we looking to the future? You know, we have our legislative, I'm not sure if anyone reached out to you yet. We have, you know, the legislative session coming up around the corner. And we're going to be coming to our commissions, right, and asking, like, what do you think we should be doing to change, or what laws or bills should be brought up to the General Assembly, or that we should support, or what should Arlington do, since we're in a Dillon Roof state. So we're going to be coming to you, right? If you're giving any of that thought about, you know, are there any laws that need to be changed, or any laws that were, or bills that were going forward that didn't pass, and we want to see them through? We're going to need you on that. I think, you know, it's not just about reviewing a site plan or, you know, a study. It is broader than that. You know, we're thinking about, again, the future of Arlington, and also, you know, perhaps the future of our surrounding area when it comes to legislation. You know, Arlington has the best and brightest, we're told, you know, some of the smartest folks on the planet here in Arlington. Just some of the smartest people in Arlington in this room right here. So we're gonna be counting on you to kind of give us some input, all these architects. I'm looking at you. Hey, look, I guess I know y'all had me on the schedule until, I don't know, I don't need to go that far. I think folks probably want to go home and drink some tea and relax. But are there any questions for me? Of course, the chair is gonna, she reserves the right to ask any questions she would like.
So I wanted to, you know, you said you were pro-housing, and
Yep.
I like to consider myself pro-housing as well. But I think often when we're on this short review board, people automatically assume that we're not, and assume that we're fighting. So, and we often have to take very reactionary stances, because our only real power is to approve or deny these things that come before us, and maybe give some advice to it. We do get to sit on the SRPC, you know, committees, and but a lot of times we're not real respected on those committees. And And I don't think our recommendations are necessarily the highest priority. And so I guess my question is, how can we still be pro-housing, still be pro-density in the county, but also make sure we're not losing, a lot of historic buildings that are important, whether it's, single family homes, or, churches, or, other historic structures. So, that's near and dear to my heart. And I, also think there could be more proactive measures that can take, like adaptive reuse and, pushing people to consider historic preservation, adaptive reuse before it's just demolished reconstruction.
Yeah, a lot there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I've got a comment too, Lawrence. Spent a long time on various topics with the HLRB and also was on the housing study. And I was trying to, my job there was to try to impress upon the group that preserving affordable housing in the form of garden apartments was not adversarial to providing affordable housing generally. And I think a few people came around, but we do have an incredible stock of garden apartments in Arlington, and they do provide a great deal of affordable housing. And we're looking at Barcroft, and we've been looking at Barcroft for a while. And I understand developers want to put up buildings with market rate housing, but it just pains me to see any of that demolished, even though it will be.
A lot of thank you too for all your service. I want to go back, especially to the chair's position. One, I feel a certain kind of way that you don't. I'm implying, like trapped in my words, you don't feel heard or welcome in some of these spaces that you go to. Everyone should feel welcome. I'll talk about one issue that I am watching closely when it comes to, churches, for example, houses of worship. There's a lot of conversation going nationally. And you can see it almost here in Arlington a little bit about large scale plots. Many churches are historic in nature, right? Whereby they want to pivot and do something different, where they want to use their land because they don't have the people come into the churches anymore, right? And they want to build houses. And there's also movement in the Commonwealth where there's groups of people that actually want to push legislation to try to make it by right across all of the Commonwealth. I don't think that'll go anywhere. But also there's need to be some consideration and leave it to the locales. I guess what I'm getting at is there is a way to walk and chew gum at the same time, right, Katie? We can still preserve, and I'm all for this, like to the extent we come to an agreement as a community, we can preserve these types of areas, but still yet build more housing, right? And these houses don't have to be Laura's 7,000 square foot. Again, I'm not going to knock folks who want to build a 7,000 square foot house because they have the right to do that in a lot of cases. But we also have to take into account, a lot of times the historical aspects of the neighborhood, and if we're going to do a lot of disruption and what that disruption is, weighs out what it looks like. Churches, mind you, are significant. And we've had a couple of churches already in Arlington that have done this kind of flip and sold some of their property and moved to the first floors. Adaptive reuse, right? We're going to have 2 projects actually coming online that we're going to talk about in our next board meeting coming up. It's on the board report already. It's over in Crystal City, where we're going to take 2 vacant buildings now, and for adaptive reuse that are going to be pretty much retrofitted for apartments. And this is, coming out to shoot, county board approved this back in last October. And now we're going to see the fruits of this policy and this labor start happening. And that's a good thing. The garden style apartments, a lot of these garden style apartments we have in Arlington and in our area, they're quite aged. I mean, can we refurbish them and do better things? Yes, but I think a lot of folks, investors are coming in like, and I can't speak for them, is it cheaper to tear them down and build a new? Because structurally, they're just, a lot of them perhaps aren't as energy efficient perhaps, so name you, and you've heard all the lines.
Yeah.
But
And they're done.
yeah, you've got a t-shirt for it. But I'm with, to the extent we can, we should be preserving as many garden style apartments as we can here in
And
Arlington.
also, the state ecologically, environmentally sustainable to save a structure rather than to tear it.
It's-
down.
It's especially with, the ones that are
Quality
brick and mortar,
materials that it's being replaced with are not the same.
they're not. The structurally, I know, I understand they're not. They're at all. I mean, it's tough. And so, mind you, that's why we have all of these different levels of checks and balances through the process to make sure, one, new sites are, not only good for our environment to the extent we can, that they're not disturbing the neighborhood. We have, HLRB and stuff like that. I think we're doing the best we can on this. But adaptive reuse, houses, churches of worship, we're going to have to come to a point whereby building houses should not be looked upon as, people shouldn't cringe. It's just a reality. There's some old structures. My house was built in 1974. And instead of like gut and tear my house down and building anew, in 2014, we remodeled it. And it's better for the environment, it's better for us. And, but I see a lot of houses, Penrose where I'm at, a lot of brick homes that were just torn down and people put 2 duplexes on the same property. Yeah. And First Place South, come over and check it out. You can tell where they're at. There's a bunch of them. And that's, to your point earlier, we should have been keeping perhaps those other single family homes, right? Could someone have? Yes. But folks aren't because they're looking for business, for bottom line and making money. It's sad, but it's a reality that we're in right now. And we need to be able to incentivize, I think, as a county, those who are willing to do those type of things, keep as much as we can of our historical structures across Arlington.
So any incentives that
Yeah.
incentivize people to keep those. And also some of our regulations actually incentivize the opposite. When you build a much bigger structure, you can come up further. So, just looking at, the details, sometimes the actual kind of small regulations incentivizes tear down as opposed to keeping.
That was actually started back in 2020, 2019, when they did the historic conservation, the housing conservation districts, the garden style apartments. And part of that deal with the board passing that was that staff was going to go back and come up with incentives to keep those garden style apartments and be able to renovate them, expand them and such. And staff worked on that for a while. I was in a lot of those meetings, and then Missing Middle came along and that was shelved and never went.
We're not talking
Nothing was ever.
we're not talking about Mr. Middle, are we?
No. I was saying what happened. So
Yeah.
So there was a process. They were having a hard time finding any way to actually do that to keep the promise of coming up with these incentives. But I really feel like staff at some point needs to go back to that and find, because those buildings, and not to get too into it, I own a lot of those buildings. They are falling apart. They're 80 years old. They're 90 years old. The plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC is literally disintegrating. And there's no economic benefit to replace those systems. They're functionally obsolete units, most of them. And that sort of housing is important. And we pride ourselves in providing that market rate affordable housing. But at some point, those buildings are not worth keeping anymore. And something has to happen.
Yeah, we are, you own what you say. I won't call names out because there's a couple of market, garden style type areas around, all especially, there's one on the kind of north side of 50. There's another one on the kind of like the south side, and they're really aged. And there's been some levels of conversation about, what does the next 10 to 15 years look like with these garden styles? Because you can see it. Something's going to have to be done. And the question becomes, is some developer going to come in and wave a lot of money and take down all these market rates, these garden styles, excuse me, and put market rate up, and then, affordability goes out the roof and you start losing large swaths of families and people because they can no longer afford to live in this new build. And there's a lot of it, again, it's structural stuff that are going on. It's not so much the bricks on the outside, it's.
I think we've been lobbying Richmond quite a bit. At some point, just cash has to be thrown at it. If the state wants to keep this sort of housing, there has to be some sort of, grant forgivable loan, some sort of program to really keep that
Have you
housing.
spoke to the housing commission on this at all? Have y'all went before the housing commission on this?
Not the housing commission. We've definitely talked to housing staff extensively.
Here, the county. Okay.
Not recently, because they dropped a lot of it, but
And you said this went back in 2019. Staff have started something.
there's a thing called housing conservation districts.
Okay. Yeah.
It happened because Westover, they were knocking all the buildings down, building townhouses. So county quickly passed something, carved out all the by right townhouses. So
I think we still are germane to historical affairs.
I mean,
I want to be mindful of my time.
sorry.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting into stuff.
No,
That
I-
we can talk about this separately sometime.
Yeah.
I love everything you brought up, Nathan, because then definitely I'm gonna be doing have a sidebar conversation. I think we were wanting to get the HLRB involved with a couple other commissions, trying to work together and do some more partnering. But I know that a lot of those things also, having started here at the county in 2019 with the HCD, and then getting to the middle and that kind of thing being tabled, and the idea of when that might come back, is definitely something that I know is on the radar with planning staff and their work plan. Where it's at this point, I'm not sure, but I'm glad that this discussion is coming up because you're definitely hitting on a lot of things that we're all like, okay, what are these next challenges going to come through? Because it's going to hit here.
May I ask one last question? Man,
Yes.
the chair is up. And because we're family, one, I want to make sure I've answered the mail on any questions or inquiries that were presented tonight. And if that was not the case, please let me know so we can, be somewhat more, perhaps succinct and clear, concise in getting the answer to you. Secondly, when I'm in all these spaces, I'm thinking about, some people have burned this word to death. It's like equity, right? And equality. Who's in the room? Who's making the decisions? And I think for what I'm seeing here, I'm very appreciative of really not only diversity of thought, but I see diversity in demographics in this room. And, that's critically important because on a night like tonight, you have to also realize that there would be people here that would be here if they could. And knowing that in this county, we have so many folks that the policies that we're shaping affects them, we got to also not think about them, right? And what's not so bad, not what's so good for our immediate circle, but what are we doing is going to impact large groups of people across all of Arlington. And so when you're thinking about equitable decision making, it's also about being a voice for people that aren't in the room. Who's missing? And being able to realize that as a leader and make a very conscious decision about what we're doing as a county. And you should know that about me and all of my colleagues as I push them, because if you're not at the table helping shape the policy, and then before I make a decision at the county board, if all I'm seeing are the same people in this space, I know that there's other people that are not here. We need to hear perspectives. And so just keep that in mind as you kind of continue to navigate HLRB, whatever that's worth. That way you know a little bit about me as well and how I come to my decisions. Because, you know, I take serious note to who was there, who was present, and how the decision was made. Back to Green Valley and many other places, I understand when some of these recommendations and how things come to us, like it's small cohorts of people who may be strong advocates and have really good relationships and know how to get their word across. But the decision we're about to make is about to impact tens of thousands of people, not just 500, not just 1,000, right? And that's how you get ready to chart the course from, you know, for the next 25, 30 years. And the lens that I'm looking through, I close out here. I have a playground, Butler Holmes Park, right around the corner from my house. And I have my neighbors, 2 little kids, and they get to play with my granddaughter when they come over. This is not about JD Spain, who's 53 years old, just turned 53 a few weeks ago. I'm thinking about what kind of Arlington are we preparing for our kids, for our children. And when my wife and I were able to age in place, can we still stay here? Are we going to stay here, right? And if so, can we navigate it? Is the right type of housing here? Are the services here? Do we have good transportation? Are the schools still great? Are we safe, right? Those are things about me if you didn't already know. Just want to share that with you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for coming, JD.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stay to the end now. I'm already.
You're not required. But we will be quick. I have nothing. So we'll run.
Items for everybody. The first one is I'm going to pass around the roster with all of you on it. And I just want you to confirm your contact information. It has your, other information on here. This is internal only. This does not go public. But we haven't done a check on your information in a while. And so I want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date contact information for everybody. So I'm going to pass that around with a pen. So if you could just put a check mark next to your name or edit as necessary. Great. My other quick reminder is that next month's meeting is on August 20th. We are one of the few county commissions that meets in August. So please let me know now if you know you are not going to be able to make that meeting, because I know that there's a lot of summertime vacations and things like that. So if you know you aren't going to be able to make it, please let me know as soon as possible. And then finally, just a quick friendly reminder to continue working towards your training. I'm going to send a big reminder email in next month in August because the training is due in September. And I just want to thank those already sent me the information. Basically, what you need to send me once you complete it is a description of the training, the duration of the training provider, and then the date of the training that you took. So again, I will remind everybody in an email, but you are all here, so I want to say it aloud. All right, and that's for me.
So the only thing I just wanted to bring up during the staff report is we did have our historic preservation principal planner position posted for 2 weeks. It closed last Thursday midnight, and I already have applications from Human Resources to review. So I'm very excited to start through that.
Great.
My hope is that it is actually very quick. This application in a matter of days. So I'll be going through those and hopefully start soon. And maybe by the end of the summer, we'll have that vacancy filled. That's my latest update on that. And that's the staff.
Okay. All right. Well, then we can adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's your summer been?
I'm ready on vacation.
Yeah. You guys have a